Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary, where I do the research to try to teach you a little something about what you're drinking. Today I'm going to be doing a review on a relatively new whiskey called Amador. Now it's only been on the market for a couple of years, and this specifically is their double barrel version, which is Kentucky bourbon that's finished in Napa Valley wine barrels. So one of the things I love about doing these videos is that, whether it be in the comments or in my personal life, people love to suggest whiskey to me. Now in this case, this was suggested to me by a coworker named Eric. I had talked to him a little bit about it and he spoke pretty well of it. So a couple weeks later, I still hadn't bought a bottle, and my father came up for a completely unrelated reason, and he's like, I brought whiskey. So he ended up leaving this here for me to do a review on my whiskey show. So thank you both for the recommendations, and here we go. Normally during this segment, I would talk to you about the distillery, but in this case, there's really no distillery to talk about. There is the Trinchero family, which are the ones that went and sourced the bourbon, which they wouldn't tell you what kind of bourbon it was, but they did say it was aged between 3 and 10 years. So they took the bourbon and they went cross country over to Napa Valley, and at their Napa Valley estate, they finished the whiskey for about 6 months in wine barrels. Now, they didn't tell you what kind of wine barrels they were either, but I dug around on their site a little bit, and it seems like the majority of what they produce is Cabernet Sauvignon. So I'm gonna guess that it's a cab, and you'll see in a minute the nose really kind of backs that up. So Trincheros have tried something like this before. They made a different offering called the 10 barrel. Now the 10 barrel was a much higher proof. It was almost 100 proof. So it was a considerably different kind of thing. But let's finish talking about the Trincheros and get right into the nosing and the tasting. So I've already gone ahead and poured my glass here, just so you didn't have to sit through that. But something I wanted to point out is that the cork is synthetic. Now that's not really a big deal, and I actually applaud them for going synthetic over a twist off, which is something that you will see in some newer whiskeys, especially when they're not planning on making a ton of whiskey. Obviously a regular cork is just kind of adds to the experience, and I'm sure some of you out there prefer it for whatever reasons, but synthetic is totally fine, and in fact it'll last longer than the regular cork, which can break down after it dries out for a while. Anyway, it's also totally not important. So as soon as you open this whiskey for the first time, you are going to smell the finish. You're going to smell wine, and I found that to be one of the more appealing parts of nosing this whiskey, and I would be very curious to know if you kind of smell the same thing. So if you happen to buy this bottle, then please tell me in the comments what you get out of the nose here. That's definitely one thing. I get a lot of comments on these videos nowadays, which is fantastic. But one thing I never see is people commenting on what they nose or taste out of the whiskey, which shocks me. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of this. So if you decided to try this whiskey, then please tell me in the comments what, if anything, you disagree or agree or whatever. So anyway, let's go ahead and nose this whiskey. Oh, this is 86.8 proof, so don't stick your nose in the glass or it will burn. All right, so this whiskey reminds me of a Manhattan. Basically, if you were to make a Manhattan and instead of just dropping a cherry in there, if you were to actually pour some cherry juice in there as well, which is something I've totally done before and it tastes awesome, that is exactly what this whiskey smells like. It's almost like a top level of kind of like a cherry or maybe even like a red wine with an undertone of everything you'd typically smell in a bourbon, oak, vanilla, whatever. So, all right, let's go ahead and taste this. Cheers. All right, so it's very mellow, which is great, but sadly uninteresting. So with such a strong nose, it's disappointing that it doesn't taste more like how it smells. I'm getting very generic things out of a bourbon here. You get oak, vanilla, cinnamon, and spice. Those are definitely some of the things I wrote down, but there's almost none of the cherry or red wine flavoring. Maybe that's what's mellowing it out a little bit, but if anything, it's probably just counterbalancing the spice. So I'm not really sure what it buys you. But despite that, this is a pretty interesting whiskey, and my dad mentioned that he got it for $25, so it was on sale. If you can find it for $25, you should absolutely buy this whiskey. Anything more than that, I don't know that I could really recommend it, especially because my own research kind of showed that it was about $40 just generally. So I don't know that I could really recommend buying this whiskey unless you can get it on sale. Anyway, that about does it for the Whiskey Dictionary. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. That is one of the best ways for you to support me. But if you'd like to support me more directly, please check out my Patreon. The link is down in the description below. Other than that, thank you for joining me on the Whiskey Dictionary, and I hope you have an awesome day. Cheers.